Welcome to The Grand Balance, a bi-weekly podcast hosted by two working grandmas navigating the beautiful chaos of work and family. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, Angela. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Well, now that I've had time to settle my over-the-moon excitedness about the second grandchild, I have some grandchild number 2 questions for you. What is the protocol on baby showers?
We had a sprinkle.
Okay.
So it's not a full shower because they have all the big things.
Right.
Right? So they call it a sprinkle. And she just asked for little clothes to fill the baby's closet because we don't have girl clothes. Now, you have girl clothes.
I know
so.
that's my dilemma is having the second of the same gender.
But then there were a couple of big things like the adapter to make the stroller turn into a stroller for 2.
The car camera to turn it into 2.
You need 2 mirrors on the back of the baby seats, like car seats. Like you need lots of 2 things. You know, new things like a new diaper bag, which is probably, getting worn out by now and stuff like that. But for the most part, it was all clothes.
Which her diaper bag, I got her for Christmas before she had the baby, and it's a beige and it's amazing. Still looks like brand new, but yes, I get your point. So I'm trying to, maybe when they're here towards the end of the summer, September, October, I can do like what you're saying, maybe with just close friends and family,
right?
Smaller
it was
group.
Smaller.
Okay,
it was smaller this time for sure.
Yeah, I didn't know what the general school of thought was on that, and I was in a little bit of a dilemma.
Yeah, it's going to be harder for you because you do have another girl.
Right. And they're far away, so it's not like she's in town either.
Yeah. So a little sprinkle should be fine.
Okay. I like that idea. And we'll just invite her immediate friends and some family and close people. Okay. Dilemma solved.
All right.
How are things going with little baby girl?
Well, she's amazing. She, at the time of this recording, she had just turned a month. So it's been great. I'm still going to support them even though the mom and dad are on leave, because it is a handful. And I mentioned on the a couple episodes ago how grandbaby number 1 was still getting used to everything and he needed a lot of attention. And if I wasn't there, it would have been really hard to juggle. But it's been giving the parents a lot of relief that I'm still there when I can be to do fun things with them. But I'll tell you, it takes like 2 hours to get out of the house. Because if it's, you're packing for one kid and then this one needs to feed and then somebody needs a diaper change. And then the other one, we were laughing about it, how it takes so long to get out of the house.
Yeah. You get one ready to go and the other one has a blowout.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. I was thinking we were out of town, as I mentioned in the prior episode, back in Denver where I was raised. And so my daughter, son-in-law, granddaughter, my sister and her whole family and extended family are all there. So my granddaughter, like my daughter, like myself, was the first grandchild. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny thinking about it because there is so much attention on her, and not just her parents and myself, but she has, 6 to 8 adults focused on her every move. We went to a children's museum, we went to the aquarium, and it was definitely all about her. And I'm thinking any subsequent child never has that.
I know.
It's so crazy.
So true. And then that's why the first child is expecting still all the attention, and they're having a hard time figuring out how to handle it when they're not getting it.
Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world, because I was observing the last week and I was thinking, wow, life is going to change rapidly. And the second one never gets that scenario just by virtue of the family dynamics.
But then, I was just seeing something online and they were talking about the firstborn and how much responsibility they feel like they have on their shoulders to be, in charge of everything and all of that as they get older. And we tend to do everything. We don't want to disappoint. So I think there's always that sibling dynamics of the first, second-born, third-born, middle child.
100%.
All of that.
And you can't control where you land. So there's pros and cons to every position, and you just got to kind of roll with it because it is whatever life dealt you.
That's right.
All right. Well, I have a new segment we're going to introduce so we can throw in periodically. I think you're going to like it.
Okay.
It's called Don't Get Us Started. And it's about all the things we come across in everyday life that are annoyances, pet peeves, things that you just cannot believe other people do without thinking. I'm thinking of the emoji like banging your forehead because that's what I often feel like doing when I see people do crazy things.
Okay, well, I'd love to hear what you have to say. I might have to keep my mouth shut because there's a lot of things that people do. But
Well, some of them are just minor and they're just funny things that happen throughout the day. But my first thing that happens all the time, and I just don't get it, is why do cars or drivers feel the need to back their car into a public parking spot when there's lines of people going and it takes so much longer? Like, just pull in the parking spot. Why do we have to do all this maneuvering and backing up into the parking spot?
so I'm looking at you because my husband does that all the time, and he has a big truck.
Why?
I don't know why, because I don't do it. I think there's a reason behind it, though. But
Well,
the only thing I can think of is they're just thinking of themselves and making it easier to get out.
well,
They're thinking ahead.
right. And I get that because it's easier to pull out, like you're not backing into someone, but it's just you have a whole line of cars waiting while you're maneuvering in and out to back into the space. I see it all the time. I mean, of course, we all are annoyed by the car that takes up 2 spaces, but this is a whole another little small annoyance that I watch happen on the daily. And I'm like, everyone's waiting. Can you just pull in your spot?
I think there's probably a reason behind this.
I
I'm going
think
to look that up.
I think it's because so they can get out easier and not have to worry about backing up into traffic. If there's traffic, I mean,
Yeah, so it's there. Is it okay? So then let's ask the question: is it selfish or is it smart?
it's ridiculous because it takes too long to get in the first place.
I guess.
My second don't get us started, and this just happened recently and it reminded me of how annoyed I get by it, is when you take your car into service and they totally adjust your seat into a completely different position and you can't find your best position for driving to save your life. Has that ever happened to you?
No. Well, yes, but I have it auto controlled.
Oh, okay.
Car. I have it's set, so I push number 1 and it goes right back.
Okay,
but
so
if you don't have that, I bet that would be so annoying.
my sister also has the number 1, and she mentioned to me, but for whatever reason, my car doesn't have that.
And you have a modern car too.
I know, right? I don't know why they didn't put it in there, but so then I get in and I don't mind the back and forth, but why is it tilted and the back thing is totally different? Like, what were you doing in my car to make yourself so comfortable?
I know. How long were you in there?
Exactly. All right. Don't get us started. Number 3 is why don't people just return their shopping carts to the shopping cart corral or the front of the store, wherever they belong? That's just, it's pure laziness. I understand if you have extenuating circumstances such as an elderly person or if you have a bunch of young kids and you don't want to leave them alone in the car. I get that. But by and large, 95% of the people do not fall in that category.
I think it's laziness for sure. And that's all I have to say.
That's just
come on, people, get your steps in.
Yeah, and also I don't want the shopping cart rolling into my car and denting it.
Well, and I feel bad because you see all the workers having to.
They have to collect them from all parts of the parking lot. Okay, just a little small thing that comes up in day-to-day life that I don't understand. Another don't get us started, and I think everyone is affected by this, and it seems like such common sense courtesy, is why do people walk around in public places on speakerphone having conversations? Loud.
Crazy.
Loud conversations.
Why?
Do you have no self-awareness at all? Are you so important that you don't care that everyone else doesn't want to hear your conversation?
I think you're right. That drives me nuts. What is the purpose of that? Why do you want people to know what other people are talking about?
I've heard some pretty personal things in the airport too.
Yeah. The other thing that's somewhat similar, I don't know if people used public transportation, but on trolleys, the people that play their music loud, and a lot of times they're playing like bad words and stuff like that. And there's families trying to go to the baseball game and stuff. That's really annoying. And it's just, I don't know. I think it's disrespectful.
It also feels very entitled to me. Like, why do you think everyone needs to listen to your music? If we all did that, we'd have all kinds of different noise going on and it would be even more annoying.
Right. And there's signs everywhere that says don't do this, but they do it anyway. So why do people feel the need to, I don't know, just be
expose everyone
and expose it and just, I guess they just don't want people to tell them what to do.
I don't know.
So, okay.
So you like that? Don't get us started. You can
That
relate
one
to
was,
that one.
That I can relate to a lot because I do take the trolley a lot during baseball season, and it happens almost every time. Either somebody's talking on the speakerphone or they're playing music that is usually inappropriate.
I saw it a ton at the airport, and I also saw it. We were loaded onto our plane, but then had to sit because of weather problems. So we were sitting probably an hour before we took off, and several loud conversations going around on the speakerphone. I don't mind if you're talking to your neighbor, but why on the phone?
I'm not sure.
All right. My final don't get us started for this week. And by the way, listeners, if you have any don't get us started to send in, we appreciate listening to all your pet peeves as well, because I'm sure it's very relatable to lots of people. But my final one is people when they're in large groups. I'm sure everyone knows someone that's done this. They ask the advice of everyone in the group. And so the first time this happens, everyone gives their input. But then as this happens more and more often in different settings, you realize they never take any of the advice that they're seeking. And it's like, why are you wasting all of our time? At times you send them links to certain products they're asking about or certain itineraries for trips. They never do it. Why? Why are you wasting everyone's time asking for advice that you're not going to take? Have you ever had this happen?
No.
You haven't?
Maybe I don't ask a whole group of people advice, so it's never happened to
No,
me.
I don't do it. I mean,
But
other
people
people.
do?
Yes.
I'm not.
Maybe you're.
No.
Oh
Maybe I
my-
don't hang out with enough people at a time.
I guess not, because I feel like there's always
But you have like group things that you
Like
do,
socially.
like bunko and all those things. Maybe that's just a more natural place for it to happen. I don't know.
maybe I had been exposed to this recently several times. And then I was watching some show, and there's a term for it, and I died because it is so fitting. This person that does this is called an asshole. They ask, but they don't take the advice.
Interesting.
So I heard the term and I said, yes, that's it. That's exactly what they are.
Okay. Well, I learned a new social term that I've not been exposed to, but now when I am exposed, I'll know what it
So I've learned
means.
not to let it annoy me. I just don't offer advice anymore. And then I don't feel like I'm wasting my time.
All right.
And that concludes Don't Get Us Started, which we'll bring back here and there. So if you have any, please send them in.
That sounds great. And I'll think of some as well because I am annoyed every day with things. But I keep my mouth shut. I
it's just
practice
nice
ipitability.
to get it off your chest. Then you feel free. You don't have to think about it.
And that's okay. And that's a good thing to share with people. So it just doesn't irritate you for too long.
Exactly. Get it out.
Yeah. So I mentioned on the last episode we did that I had been to these conferences, and one I was really inspired from was the Women's Disruptive Leadership Conference. About 220 women there just sharing their experiences and how we can help each other out in the workplace, but also just as women with children, husbands, spouses, pets, grandchildren. They're such a big part of our life. And in one of the panels that we were talking about, one of the women brought up this, I don't know if it's an analogy or just something to think about, that we're all juggling so many balls in the air at one time as working grandmas. And, we've talked about this. We're not only still, in many cases, supporting our children, whether that's in the home or just things that come up over time with grandchildren, with our parents. Some of us have ailing parents or older parents that we need to talk to. Plus, we need our social lives. So there's just a lot that we're balancing.
Which started our whole podcast, the Grand Balance. That's what we were basing everything on, was the balancing act that we do on the daily.
That's right. So this woman talked about, we're juggling all the balls in the air, but it's so important to really figure out the importance and help prioritize ourselves to the type of balls we're juggling. Are we juggling glass balls that we need to handle with care because they can break? Or are we juggling rubber balls that there's opportunities to bounce back? And the glass balls are those things that are non-negotiables. Things that if we neglect, they can cause lasting harm. The rubber balls are things that, yes, they're important, but they're recoverable if they're dropped, right?
So saying the glass balls are the priority.
Exactly. So examples of glass balls: health, your mental, emotional, and physical health. And we've talked about this.
And such a good reminder, because I do think women tend to put that on the back burner.
We totally do. I mean, I had that experience. We've talked about it a lot, that we might suffer pain. We just don't go in time. And then it ends up being some significant issues. But if we're not in good mental, emotional, and physical health, there's only so much we can do to support our families, to keep things together, right? So that's one of the non-negotiables. The second is family bonds and time with children and grandchildren. I mean, that's, like you said, that's the purpose of this podcast, right? How do we balance enough so that we can give to our children and our grandchildren the attention and focus that they need to create those strong bonds for the future?
Right. Throughout each stage, because to create those bonds, it's something that's continual. It's not something you can say, oh, I'll wait for 5 years until they can remember. These are bonds that you want to put in place from the day they're born.
Yep. And then there's marriage, if you're married, or core personal relationships, whether that's, friends or family or, other family members. Very important. You cannot let those break. Then your integrity and your values, which I really appreciated. Like, we need to make sure that we don't go against those by doing things that may go against our values. I mean,
Right.
if we're not giving time, let's say we practice our faith strongly and we're not giving time to go to church on Sundays and things like that, those are things that, can eventually hurt us long term.
And there's such a sense of peace when you're true to yourself. If you're really living the life that you want to live and addressing the things that are important to you, the morals, the character aspects, if you're doing all that, I feel like it just makes such a better life in general.
Yep. So these are things that require intentional care. And if they're broken, they're likely unrepairable. So it's important to prioritize those, or it's going to be really hard to repair those. The rubber balls, these are things that can bounce back. So while they're important, they're recoverable. They might cause short-term stress, but long-term, they're recoverable. Now, we're all working women, so we might find things like emails and deadlines. Of course, many of us, and I'm putting myself at the top of that list, sometimes put those deadlines and those emails and those overcommitting at work as my priority. And it's been a challenge in my life over the years with my marriage. So my core relationship, which was a glass ball, with my children. So that is something that we need to figure out, more importantly, how to put that category in the rubber balls. It's not like we're saying just let it go.
Right.
But when push comes to shove, if it's between your family and your work, you have to figure out a way to make the family come first.
Yeah. Prioritize.
Yeah. And I get it. It is not easy, especially as we were talking about women, trying to make it in a world where there's mostly men and they're the only ones saying they have to go pick up their kids or, be home in time for their children. The other rubber ball is social obligations. Look, if you're going to, not attend an event, a social event, it's okay. If you've got the right friends, they're going to forgive you. And if you miss something and those friends push you out, they're not the right friends for you anyway.
Yeah, they're not actual friends. And I agree with that. And I've gotten much better about not doing things that I really care to do. It makes your life so much simpler when you are prioritizing the things that matter and giving the relationships that really matter time and space. And the things that don't really matter, you can let go of because it's just something else that's pulling you in different directions.
Yep. And then laundry, errands, housework. Totally agree with this too. I tend to stress out so much about, I got to get this done this weekend. I got to do laundry. I got to do housework, instead of spending time with my husband, sitting with him and doing something that we could do together. And I'm not balancing the right ball on that one. I'm not juggling the right ball. And then the last one is the perfectly curated appearances. So I know for me, when you socialize with people or you bring people over to the home, I just want it to be so perfect and I overstress on that. But at the end of the day, you're juggling a rubber ball that doesn't matter, because if you've got the right glass ball up in the air and you've got amazing personal core relationships, you don't need to be impressing those people. You just need to be spending the quality time with them.
Yeah, I think that's so important for the younger generation to learn that very simple lesson, because there's so much angst with social media and appearances where the pressure is put on them. We've talked about it so many times, but if they can just understand, all of that doesn't matter. It's just appearances. It's nothing else.
And it was interesting because at the end of this meeting that we were all attending, so many women expressed how they really hung on to that one tip about understanding what what you're juggling between the glass balls and the rubber balls. And they were going to try to take that to heart. And so I think we all can be doing that and all be serving as examples for the younger generation, as you mentioned, and even for our grandchildren. Yes, they know you have a job, but if they really want to be part of your life, finding ways to break so that you can go to their event, even if it's after hours, what can you do with them to balance that so you're keeping that glass ball in the air?
When it also shows them their importance.
Right. So if you're overwhelmed, let the rubber balls drop. It's fine. It's not gonna be a huge disaster, but focus on the glass balls and making sure you're handling them with care. And
strategize the priorities.
Yep.
I think if you strategize which ball you're doing, you're going to be happier in the end.
Yeah.
I love this quote, and I had put it on my Instagram feed years ago, but it just came back to me. Be the woman who fixes another woman's crown without telling the world it was crooked.
I love that.
I know, don't you? Because that's what we all need to do. Support, uplift. We don't need to feel better about ourselves by putting someone else down.
Agreed. And that brings me to the last point from this conference that I attended that really touched me. So there was a speaker, and she was talking about the patient experience. And she has 3 children. One has special needs. And she brought her children to this event. And she, the message was, ladies, this is what we're all working for. Our families, our children. And the kids left, she was just introducing the topic. So then they left. And later in the day, one of the leaders, who was an executive at a health system, told this woman, when I first saw the children, I was shocked that you brought your kids to a work event. And I almost was like questioning it. Why would she do this? And then I had to remember, we all have children. We all have lives. Many of us in this room have children, have nieces and nephews, have significant others, have grandchildren. Why are we hiding this from our work environment? And it all went back to, what we were talking about earlier, that we're still not comfortable embracing the importance of our lives at the workplace.
Which is crazy, because that's what you aspire to, have a full life. And majority of people have lives, and you feel more connected when you can share your full life.
That's right. But it's been ingrained in us to, just focus on work and not, bring that into the story of who we are.
Especially as women.
And of course, this was a women's conference. But I think it was so great that even this executive at this conference said, you know what, you've changed my mind. I'm not gonna hide that anymore. And so this woman who brought the children said she had worked at a software company before, and nobody knew she even had children, let alone children with special needs. They didn't ever talk about kids in the environment. They didn't talk about family.
Which is crazy when you think about how many hours you spend at work, and to have that whole part of your life not spoken about. I couldn't do that. That's nuts to me.
So to your point, we need to uplift women. We need to be talking about this. We need to be supporting women, whether they have children or not, whether they have grandchildren or not. We just need to be that voice and mentor them and give them the opportunity to embrace their personal life as part of who they are and not hide it.
And normalize women power.
That's right. So anyway, great conference. If, I think I just needed to be uplifted because it's been so long that I've, had that opportunity to really get with a great group of women and talk about these tough topics.
Yeah, I love it. And I love that we're able to talk about them.
Yeah.
Well, it was fun. I will see you soon. Thanks for listening, everyone.
All right. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe to the podcast so we can continue to grow our community. Also follow us on Instagram at Working Grandmas Podcast, on Facebook at The Grand Balance, a Working Grandmas Podcast, and join our LinkedIn group, Working Grandmas. You can also email us at info@workinggrandmas.com or message us through any of our social media platforms.